All right, and now we're recording. I'm joined today by Sandra McAllister from McAllister and Co. Sandra, do you want to give a bit of background about who you are, what your business does?
Okay, then we're insolvency practitioners, so we assist companies that are in difficulty, um, and also individuals with IVAs, sole traders, that sort of thing.
Okay, and with COVID hitting and the lockdown, a lot of businesses have transitioned to working from home to a big extent. So we've done that. How have you found that transition? And have you got the majority of people working from skeleton staff in, or?
Yes, I've got to say it was a bit abrupt to begin with, so we've had to make quite a few changes. When everybody went home, I had to buy a number of laptops and that sort of thing, which we didn't have. There was a lot of concerns about confidentiality, all of that sort of stuff around working from home, because it's quite easy if you've got a spare room and nobody goes in there, but not if you're working in your living room and your son is trying to play uh, on his Xbox in the same room. So there were quite a lot of difficulties getting people to work from home, as far as that was concerned, with technology initially. But yes, I carried on working from home because somebody had to deal with the mail. Working from the office, so somebody had to deal with the the mail as it comes in and mail that goes out. So people have started to creep coming back in, um, doing different hours from each other. So I've got one lady that starts at 6 o'clock in the morning, because that's good for her, nice peace and quiet. And then I've got other people then that are working more into the evening because that works for them better. So as far as we're concerned, it's given us extended working hours, or availability to our clients. But yes, it was difficult to begin with, but now we're there. I think, and I think it gives everybody the flexibility moving forward. So summer holidays, where you've had children's school holidays, have been difficult. I think now we're going to be a lot more flexible and be able to cover all of that sort of stuff because it's been thought through. Mm.
Yeah, I think the forced change has actually made a lot of businesses realize that maybe the 9 to 5 standard working hours is going to become a thing of the past to some extent, and that
Mm.
because working from home with the flexibility, as long as the work gets done and you are available to take calls from clients when they do need to speak to you, there's going to be a bit more flexibility in terms of working hours and things moving forward.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I've become far more productive now, where I do Zoom meetings rather than spending my life in the car. Um, so I think that's been a positive outcome of all of this sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely has. I mean, when you're on the road and you go to meet people, say we're traveling from Swansea to Cardiff, there's an hour there, an hour meeting, chit chat either side of it, hour back, and it's the best part of half a day gone for one meeting. When this can be done, 30 minutes, get to the point, let's get things done, and then you can move on to the rest of your day. Then.
Mm. And people are better at Zoom meetings now than they were when they first started, because everybody used to talk over each other. But you do let people talk, and then yeah, get to the point, as you say. So I think that's good too.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of COVID and the work that you do, obviously you deal with distressed businesses. Have you seen any changes? Have you seen an uptick of people contacting you?
No, in actual fact, the the whole insolvency industry has become very quiet because everybody's had their grants and loans, staff. They don't have the pressure of having to pay staff. I was so used to dealing with those phone calls on a Wednesday to tell me they didn't have the money for Friday to pay the staff. So that kind of pressure has been relieved, and really the only real pressure has been from landlords insisting on being paid, but then they're unable to evict tenants at the moment, so that pressure is off. So we've been quite quiet, but I've had quite a lot of conversations with people about the worries of moving forward and how they're going to trade when they move forward. So, hairdressers are deciding to work in 2 shifts, one in the morning, one in the afternoon, and so they've got extended hours, or very small shops that have looked at that 2 meter or a meter distance, and it just means that they're not going to be able to break even. So we've been talking about break even and what it takes to stay in business, really. Has been conversations, which is, and I've talked to very successful businesses, because that have been in the past, and they've just had their legs chopped off, because they're not able to trade. So it's been very very difficult conversations with some companies, but we haven't had that avalanche of insolvencies that I think sadly might come towards the end of the year, really. With what we're looking at, we are trying to discuss with some companies CVAs, so where they do have liabilities that they're going to find difficult, looking at payment plans to keep them in business and formalizing those payment plans, but that's not going to be right for everybody. It's good where you have a company that's very asset rich, but then all of a sudden your discounts all go away because everybody thinks that you're a bad risk, and so it does become a lot more difficult. Overdrafts will disappear when you look at CVAs, and so a company voluntary arrangement can be good, but it can also have its come with its difficulties as well.
Yeah. I know that there's been some changes in legislation around insolvency law.
Yeah.
Can you give just a brief background as to what those changes have been?
So in this period now, we aren't supposed to be looking at wrongful trading. So if a company continues on and they are technically insolvent, well, then we have this period where it's not going to be enforceable. But wrongful trading has always been a very difficult action to take to prove insolvency. So I think that that although it is some relief for directors, I don't think it's necessarily a get out of free jail card. Yes. The other thing that's come in is the moratorium that prevents your creditors taking action against you, but it's only for a 20-day period, so it's quite a short period. I think that really it can be extended, but it's only there, I think, for getting things sorted, getting your finance together, or maybe collecting in some of those debtors that owe you money, to give you a little bit of breathing space. It's not a long time to really turn things around, because turning a company around can take considerable time. Most contracts with suppliers will be 3 months cancellation, and so you can't just pivot things instantly in business. So it's good. We'll see how it works, but it's very new for us at the moment. So we'll see what the uses are.
Yeah, you mentioned a little bit earlier that the insolvency side of things actually hasn't increased to this point because of all of the government support options. So, businesses have effectively shut down to their bare bones. They're having their, wages covered by the furlough scheme. They may have got a couple of grants in terms of business rates or economic resilience funds in Wales, and the things like the bounce back loans and the CBILS as well, the business interruption loan schemes. And I've had a chat with a few people over the last few weeks, and some of the thoughts are that this at the moment, the cash in businesses' bank accounts is possibly going to cause it's a bit of an artificial position that they're in, and when it comes to then starting to trade again, there's a real risk of overtrading and running out of cash pretty quickly, and that maybe we're going to see the actual effects of all this coming in sort of Q1 and 2 next year. Are your sort of thoughts around the same as that?
Oh, definitely. I think quarter 1 next year is going to be very difficult for a lot of people. They're going to have to pay back the VAT that they've got in their bank accounts now, but also as well, lots of directors will not have been saving their personal tax, and they rely on the company bank account and their director's current account to take that money out and pay that then. You know, quite frankly, quarter 1 is going to be very difficult, I think, for a lot of people. Once the payments for those loans as well that they've taken out kick in, them, you know, they're very reasonable, the loans are, but if they've not been used properly, well, then that's going to create additional taxes that are going to fall due as well on the company. And so, you know, it's I think it is a bit of a perfect storm if you're not aware of what's coming and you're not budgeting and understanding your cash flow properly. You know, and if you find it difficult yourself, you know, getting somebody else to do it, getting software in place that will show you exactly where you're at, really, because you know, that VAT sitting in your bank account is, you know, lots of directors may not be aware of that or forget about it by the time we get round to quarter 1 next year, and then it will be a shock that it all has to be paid all in one go. And it's very much to know that it is still there in that reserve bank account, waiting to be paid, not all of a sudden being gambled on a contract that isn't paying you in time. I think that could be quite a difficult one. Bounce back loans as well. You know, they are. Some people are not. You know, they're depending on that to fund their lifestyle, which is also going to create directors' current accounts. So, although directors are feeling that these loans have no personal guarantee with them, unfortunately, if they do overtrade, they do go into difficulty, and that and they've taken out the money to finance their personal lifestyle. Well, then all of a sudden that loan has turned into a overdrawn director's current account, and a liquidator or administrator are going to step in and be demanding that money back. So it really needs to be there to be used properly, and to make sure that that it is being used for the benefit of the business. Obviously, you know, you they'd be entitled to take wages, and because everybody's going to live, but it's not to be taken out and just frittered away, because it does need to be paid back, and the taxes need to be paid back when they fall due, later on in the year and next year. Yes.
Yeah, from our point of view, we've seen a lot of clients take the bounce back loans, and you know, surrounding conversations prior to them taking it, it's identifying the reason why they're going to take it. So it's having those conversations and, you know, being sensible about it and what it's going to be used for. So we've got some clients who maybe are in a decent cash position now, but they're forecasting that they might not be in a decent cash position towards the end of the year or Q1 next year, at which point, without the bounce back loan, they might have dropped into an overdraft or needed to get another facility. Obviously, the bounce back loan facility is going to be cheaper than an overdraft or another facility. So it's there as a buffer, but it's sort of not being spent now. It's being used as a contingency plan moving forward. We've got a few other clients who have had ideas about slightly diversifying their product or service offering, and up until now they've been so busy doing the day-to-day work that they haven't had the chance to actually look at that. So they're taking the bounce back loan, not using it all, but taking a small proportion of it to invest into diversifying their product and service offering particularly now with a lot of things going. Everything seems to be accelerating now, moving online, and maybe there's a couple of businesses who hadn't had an online presence or hadn't been able to sell online who are looking to set something like that up now. Whereas the worst case scenario is, like you said, take the bounce back loan, take the 50 grand, withdraw it all withdraw it all and spend it personally. And then what you're doing then is you're creating a loan between you and the company, like you said, the overdrawn loan account. So you as a director owe the company money. So then if your company then does get into a position where creditors are looking to liquidate, then, you know, the cash that you've taken out is an asset for the liquidators to get their hands on. And you're effectively creating, even though there's no personal guarantees with these loans, if you do it that way, you're creating your own personal guarantee because you're creating a loan between you and the business.
Definitely, and people often don't realise that. They often have no idea that they're doing that. So it's about getting your budgets in place and getting your understanding. The softwares out there these days that you can use, QuickBooks, Xero, all of those sort of things. They're great because they can show you exactly what you need to be looking at and where you are. But people just need to know where to look. And to make sure that they have an idea of that. The other thing as well that I think I find with directors when they are in trouble is explaining their actions before. Now, and I think at this time, I think it would be, it's very useful that that they should keep a diary of events, of reasoning, because in hindsight, we could have all made different decisions. But if you can explain why you made decisions at a time, you might diversify, and it might not work out. Well, so be it. You tried, but then having to explain that to a liquidator when they're saying to you, well, you were just frittering the money away. If you've got that argument and the reasoning for the decisions at the time, well, then it can be explained. And an awful lot of awful lot of the problems that can be looked at as far as your conduct as a director, if you've done that, and I think irrespective this year, I think people should be, because it's so unknown what's going to come out of all of this in the end. So I think that it would be wise for people to keep a note of those decisions, so that if they do have to explain their actions, they've got it there to look back on. Keeping minutes of meetings, or we all say that's a good thing to do, but when we're a small business, it's very difficult. But maybe if you've had a chat between two directors, well, then do a quick email to each other that you can then set aside in a little folder, and it's there to refer back to. Emails are great because they give you the time and the date, and and it's a good log to keep. So that sort of thing can be very useful if things don't work out in the end. As you say, end of this year, beginning of next, really. Yeah.
And with this happening, I think a lot of businesses now are coming to the realization that, looking at what your accounts look like 6 months after the year end and just signing them off isn't going to be good enough anymore. There's like you mentioned, there's plenty of software around. I'm a big fan of Xero and all the plugins that come with it. So it's the technology is there. 10 years ago when it was first starting out, it wasn't as good as what it is now. But there's a need now to understand your business position, your cash position, and a potentially, looking at least a 3 month into the future cash flow forecast on any day of the week. And because we've got systems where you can have real-time information, daily bookkeeping is becoming quite popular now. There's lots of firms, including ourselves, that can offer daily bookkeeping, so that if a director needs to go into their financial systems and know exactly where they are on a day, You know, rather than having to wait till month end and understanding what happened last month, they know exactly what's happening now, so they can much more easily forecast into the future. And with
Yeah.
the sort of, like I said, the artificial propping up of the economy with the cash buffers now, that's going to be extremely important moving forward to understand where you are now and where you're going.
The budget and variances in the in Xero is great. I use it myself. You know, it just keeps you online. You know, you're there. You can, as you say, you look at it daily, and if you're not on target, or if there's a surprise cost that's come out of the blue, well, you know, it's there. And you can tweak, and by tweaking it, then you know what effect that's going to have next month and you know, next quarter. So yeah, I think they're very important, and if people get them set up, well, then it could be a very good safety net for them, because rather than, you know, reacting at the last minute, they can be prepared, which yeah, you know, can help a lot.
Yeah, and you know, not just looking at where we are now. I mean, in terms of, because I'm predominantly working in the tax area, so I give tax advice. And if you've got that information, so it's updated constantly, we can see things come in before they happen.
Yeah.
Which, as someone who works in tax, that's key for us to be able to actually provide advice which is going to save you tax. Because if you come to us so 3 months after the transactions happened and say, can you do some tax planning on this? Well, the contracts have already been signed, the transactions already happened, it's already been categorized in a certain way. So what we can do is really limited then. But if we see it happening beforehand, we can be proactive and put things in place to mitigate or minimize that tax moving forward. On the use of Xero, there's a really, really good plugin called Xavier, so Xavier. And what it does, it'll go into your Xero, it'll pull all the information out, and the first thing it'll do is give you a health score. So it'll look at how good your data is. It'll analyze if you've got any duplicate contacts or duplicate transactions in it. And it's being mapped out as well now, so that you can actually, it'll highlight if you've got any irregular payments that have happened. So you can track and say a specific line item in your P&L, or you're looking at your cost of sales, and you go, well, why is my margin dropped this month? Well, this system will pull that out and it'll highlight you that, you know, you spent 1.5 times your average amount in a certain month. And I think that's a really good tool. That's not as well known as Xero, but I think it's going to become more well known as we move forward and the functionality is improved.
Yep, superb. I hadn't heard of that one. I'm going to be having a look. Great.
Yeah, I'll have a little look, and if you want a quick chat, just to have a look at, you know, background of what it does and everything, just sure, reach out and I'll be able to talk you through it.
Excellent. Yeah, that sort of thing is so useful, yeah, as you say, no longer can you just meet your accountant once a year and, you know, put your best suit on and then walk out of there with a bound set of accounts, because it just doesn't work, does it? You know, and things are changing so quickly, and I think you have to be agile, really. Otherwise you are just going to not survive in this current market at all, really.
Yeah. Moving forward then, I mean, we talked about Q1 and Q2 next year. At what point do you think a business owner should reach out and have the initial conversation with an insolvency practitioner, just to sort of understand their position and what their obligations are?
Oh, I must say it's never too early. You know, if they're looking at things and they think they're a little unsure how things are going to work out, it's always good to have a chat. You know, the industry in its entirety will always give initial consultations for free. You know, we will all sit down and have a chat with you, explain the consequences of if it plays out not as you're hoping it to play out. So we talk through the whole potentials that can go wrong, things like transactions that undervalue, things like preferences, you know, the disqualification process if you really do get it wrong. And so because we we can all make mistakes, and business fails, but as long as you've done your best and you've done things correctly, well, then you shouldn't get struck off. As long as you've been doing things as they're supposed to be done, well, then our legislation is written in a way which should aid you to start again. So there's lots of do's and don'ts, and there's lots of understanding, and as long as people understand what they're doing, well, then they should be okay. So I think never too early to just have a quick chat. Make sure that you're prepared, really. And so as soon as their projections aren't looking so great, I think if you start to get into a dispute, so that debtor of yours that owes you a large chunk of money is starting to look a little iffy, if they're looking like they're going to fail, all of a sudden that could be the house of cards falling in on you. I think it's never too soon to have a chat with an insolvency practitioner, just to make sure that you've got things correctly done, and then we suggest those additional assurances, maybe getting the assets valued, looking at different borrowing, all of that sort of thing can possibly be something that we pull to the table that will help you, really. As soon as their gut starts to feel like there's something wrong, usually they're right, I think.
Yeah, that's a good bit of advice. And yeah, if reach out as soon as possible and get that advice, so that that you're not putting a foot wrong moving forward, and you're not going to get yourself into any trouble that you shouldn't be getting into.
Yeah.
Sandra, I think that we've covered everything that we were gonna talk about. So thanks for joining us. I will, if you don't mind, I'll put your contact details in the bio of the video.
Yep.
And right about now, you'll probably see some buttons on the screen. If you like the content today, click subscribe to be notified of future videos. Sandra, thanks for coming today.
There we are. Good to see you, Jamie.
Good to see you too. Ta-ra.